Hi, guys. I was enjoying the song. It cut off before I was done dancing.
Sorry.
Oh, hey, welcome to Chill with Purpose, the broadcast that rescues the hearts and the mind. You know what I love about our broadcast? It's not rigid, as we can very well tell. It is not a rigid broadcast. So we just go with the flow. We hiccup with the hiccups, we burp with the burps, and we keep it going. So, welcome, welcome, welcome. We are still continuing in our series of honoring our military, honoring our veterans. And so, we are so excited tonight to have Mr. Maury Clay.
All right. Thank you. Thank you so much.
His cousin is Maury Clay.
Huh?
I said he's cousin to Maury Clay.
Yeah, it sounds like I'm back in church. I heard that a lot when I was in church as a younger person.
It's not even an original joke, huh? But he was so kind. He's like, yeah, they did that a lot. He served in the United States Army. He was a major in the Army. Is that correct?
That's correct. Of course, you don't start out as a major, but that was the last rank that I held when I retired from the military.
Nice. I love it. I love it. So, y'all, we are excited to learn about Maury. We are excited to hear his story. But before we do that, y'all, I got to check in on my co-hosts, Sandra, Selena, Magdalene. How y'all doing?
I'm good.
Good.
We are
good. Two goods and an ashy. There we are. Two goods and an ashy. Do I hear lotion applied? Anybody? Nope. Okay. Well, moving on. So we got the two goods and ashy. We was learning about gumbo behind the scenes while we were waiting to go live. What we will eat in gumbo, what we won't. Some have been reduced to jambalaya because they cannot consider what they partake of as gumbo. But we're going to let them remain anonymous. Unless, of course, they act up. Then I will have to spill the beans. All right, so let's just dive in. Maury, how long were you in the military?
Approximately 20 years. The way the military works is, first of all, there are many options in terms of how long you can be in. But if you expect to get what they would call a full retirement, which still varies, depending on the person and their rank, it's usually 20 years.
Okay. Nice. And you did 20 years, I believe I heard you say, right?
That's correct. And it was like, I would argue, or I would make the statement, it was skin of the teeth, 20 years. I knew that it was 20 years because I went to the person who calculates retirement, and I did not sign any retirement papers and until I knew for a fact that I would be retiring with those 20 years.
Nice. Very smart. Very wise. So, and just so you know, even our viewing audience, as you all are coming in, please let us know if you have questions for our guests. And there may be times that we as the panel will ask questions. I personally find the life experience in the military intriguing, and I'm so grateful. So the first thing we really needed to do was say thank you for your service.
Thanks for your support.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Y'all my favorite kind of people, especially if you were in the Army or in the Army. That's my favorite because my daddy was the Army.
All right. Yeah. That's great.
I love it. He even changed. He lied about his age so he could serve his country.
Oh, wow.
That's pretty. And that was in an era where, you know, they were still calling us out of our name and thinking we were nothing. That was in 1925.
Wow.
So you can imagine he had a love for his country. So, yeah, I appreciate y'all very much. So does anybody have a question they would like to kick off before we turn it over to Maury?
He said something that I want to ask. So why was it important for you? You said you wanted to make sure that he add up the years for it to be 20. Why was that important, even if it went like, let me say, over 21, like 21 years?
Okay, great. That's a great question. There are a lot of potential directions I can go in to answer that question.
Mhm.
Um, I can be very detailed at times, or I can be real high level. So let me just back up just a little bit. So you can be in the army and you can be called to a war zone, uh, and you could have been in the reserves, and
Mhm.
then they have a war and they call you up. At that point, you're interacting with soldiers who every day they get up at a certain time and go do their job. And those people are, uh, one of the phrases they throw around is what they call regular army. But whether you're reservist or not a reservist, you're still in the army. You may
Mhm.
be serving in the Army Reserves. And for me, when I initially signed my contract, I was in the Army Reserves. But then Desert Shield, Desert Storm came around in 1990, 1991. I was one of the first units to get called up during, um, it was like October of 1990. And I found myself in Chicago at Fort Sheridan, which is an Army base, which is no longer open. It was closed in one of these government downsizing. And so I was on active duty during the war from 1990 to 1991. I can give you more details if somebody decides to ask that now. So give you that background. So when you're in the reserves, you go on active duty, what the reservists call active duty. And actually, everybody would call it active duty because that's what the orders say, which
Mhm.
is a document that says you are going to do something, signed by a high ranking person. Anyway, so every year, reservist goes to annual training for about 2 weeks. And for me, several times I was actually in, because I think some of y'all are in Colorado. Several
Mhm.
times I went to Fort Carson, Colorado, which is in
Okay.
Colorado Springs,
Mhm.
for this active duty training. And when I'm on that training, I'm interacting with people who 5 days a week are in the, going to work uh,
Mhm.
in the army. So I did that several times. I also have been to Korea dealing with active duty soldiers on active duty in Korea. And I think
Mhm.
I did that 2 or 3 times. Anyway, so why was it important? Let's back to that question. Why was it important that I get 20 years? Reservists, as well as active duty, but in particular reservists, we get so many points for a weekend drill, and we get so many points for training, like schools. Like
Mhm.
we can take correspondence type schools, or we can go on active duty and take schools, which I did. I've
Mm.
been on active duty in California for schools. I've been on again on active duty for schools. I think I went a couple of times, maybe even to Colorado again for a school. Um, and then we get like so drill, annual training points, schools, correspondence, or active duty school points. And so a reservist needs so many points per year to get what is known as a good year.
Oh.
Without a good year, that does not count for your 20 years of retirement. Why is 20 years of retirement so important for reservists? Because after that 20 years, when you reach a certain age, you now qualify for money for the rest of your life after you reach a certain age. And I
No.
wanted to have that money
I
for
know
the
that's
rest of my
right.
life after a certain age. Not only that, the other benefit I got is I qualified for what I thought when I was a reservist was going to be free health insurance. How many knows?
Uh,
How many people know very few things are free?
There.
So I now have the health care that I get from my regular job that I have. I work a regular job right now, and I work for the government even now. But I really have two insurance. I have what's known as TRICARE, which is what if you talk to any soldier that's working 9 to 5 at a military base, they usually have TRICARE health insurance. I now qualify for that, and I have it as a supplement to the health insurance that I have through my what I call my 9 to 5 job that I'm doing right now. So why was 20 years important? To get money at a certain age for the rest of my life, and to also qualify for health insurance for the rest of my life as long as I want to pay for it. Also, I can go to, I think my wife forgot about this meeting. Hold on one second. Let's see. I need to. Well, I can't send her a message there. Anyway, hopefully she'll get the point. But so I needed to. Oh yeah. Anyway, back to that. So I qualified for this health insurance, life. I even qualified for life insurance, even though I'm not really didn't buy any of that. But the main thing also is I can go to the VA hospital, even if I didn't have TRICARE. I could go to the VA hospital after 20 years and still get seen. Where with the TRICARE, I don't have to be stuck, just go to the VA. I can go to other hospitals. Trying to think if there are any other benefits. Those are key benefits. There could be, commissary. That's a big one. So in Fort Carson, Colorado, they probably have what's known as a commissary, which is, and they have, so one's called a PX and one's called a I think the commissary is the grocery store, and I think the PX is like where you can go shop for clothes, TVs, that sort of stuff. Because I did that 20 years, I can now go to those places any day of the week if there's a base. Near me, I have a really wonderful base, and that is, oh my goodness, it's Scott Air Force Base.
Okay.
So I'm not limited to Army or Navy bases. I can go to Scott Air Force Base, and because of their mission, they have a really important mission. The government has invested a lot of money in Scott Air Force Base. When you go in that commissary, there is subsidized food of high quality. I mean, it's discounted. And so that's a great benefit. Also, if I did not have my current job, I could fly what they call Space A. It means I could call and say, hey, do you have a flight leaving Scott going to Denver? Now, it may not be, I may not land at the main airport in Denver, but I would land at a military base airport, and then I need to make sure somebody can get me where I need to go after that, because there may not be a budget at the military base that you can just walk up to and get your budget car and get off the base. So anyway, that's the long way of saying why 20 years was important. So if you need some clarification, let me know.
Oh, thank you. That's worth the 20 years, because I know some people, I know this guy, he had done, I think like about 10 years. And then he got out, and basically now he regrets it because he said he suffered for 10. He should have done 10 more.
Great point. So that's a critical point. So when I got in the reserves, there were some older guys there, and basically they would tell me, I know you don't always like this, but they said anybody they've ever talked to who got out regretted it. And initially I was like, those initial drills were like, almost like somebody's pulling my teeth. In other words, some days were really tough. Because you talked about, there was a time, I think you said that where your father was not being treated well. Let me tell you. So I was an officer. I wasn't like enlisted. I didn't come in as a private. I came in the equivalent of a sergeant rank because of college. But even though that was true, I had a boss. The minute I became second lieutenant, I was at annual training, and he was a man who liked to holler. But he didn't know is I grew up with a mama and a grandma who I love dearly, who hollered a lot. so,
So it didn't faze you at all.
So it didn't really faze me that much because unfortunately I had grown up in an environment like that. So that wasn't that big of a deal. But what happened was I always felt like God was there giving me favor. And so there were other officers who said, basically that officer is a butthole and he shouldn't be doing that. And one of the officers who became a mentor for me offered me a job. And he says, after this annual training, I want you to come work for me. The best advice that officer gave me was taking like in the Army, they have what's called staff journals. A staff journal is just basically a big old OneNote, but it's a daily journal of what you're doing. And so I've got 20, I think I have all 20. I have 20 years worth of staff journals. The time I did my drills written down and the time I spent in the desert. I have all that stuff written down day by day.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'll bet that is a fascinating book in the making.
I've thought about that. And of course, yes, I think that is some potential for that. I just would probably, I know they've got these new things where someone can help write your life story.
Ghost writers.
Yeah. And I think they send you questions every so often. And then they write about you. So I've considered doing that for my regular life story, but I haven't done it yet because I'm just so busy and hoping to be retired from this regular job that I have real soon. I'm also a pastor, so I do that. And even though I don't work 40 hours a week, a pastor is always working in many ways.
Exactly. Yes.
So yeah.
It's a 24/7 job.
Yes.
Wow, that is amazing. So I have a question though. When you were first starting out, you said something points determine a good year. How many points does it take to be considered a good year?
Oh, you had to ask that question. What I'll do, let me get back to you on that. I have a copy of my retirement points. And it's probably something that's with the advent of AI and how efficient it is. Let me come back to that question, but I've got a computer in front of me and I'm going to see if I can Google. If my wife were here, because she has a really great memory, I could ask her and she would know. We were in the same, so in the military, they have branches. When you talk to enlisted people, they usually talk about MOSs. And I still had an MOS. So there's the Army Navy branch, but there's also a branch that relates to MOS. And so I was in what was they called it Adjutant General, but technically today they call it Human Resources branch. Human Resources branch. And I had a MOS. It was either 42 Alpha or 42 Bravo. I can't remember exactly what it was at this point. That's another reason I need to write this book, so all the details can be in it.
You can reference your own book.
Yes.
Well, while you're looking for that, we have another question.
Sure.
What's the major difference between regular Army and Army Reserves?
Basically, if we use the term regular Army, because there are some other ways you can work 9 to 5, the equivalent of 9 to 5, Monday through Friday. Basically, reserves just means you're drilling on the weekend once a month, but it could be more. Because some months I didn't just go to the reserve center one weekend. If I had an extra school, I might have to be at the reserve center for a second weekend for school. Also, because I was an officer, there were times higher ranking people or lower ranking people that had problems would call me during the week and try to get answers to questions, or find out how projects were going that I was working on. So the basic difference is a reservist is going to active duty normally for annual training, and then they're drilling once a month, but that can vary. Where a regular Army person, it's just like for example, you could have a regular Air Force person. My grandson, I have grandkids. I have an older grandson. He went in the Air Force, not the Army. No problem. I like the Air Force. One of my good friends from grade school was in the Air Force, and his first regular Air Force assignment was Hawaii. So
Nice.
he left right from Texas. His home with his mom, went to his school in Texas, and then gets on a plane and goes to Hawaii for several years.
Wow.
And now I think he's headed to Louisiana for his next assignment. I think is where he's headed. So basically, regular Army just means your 9 to 5 job. And what's neat about, I love Army, love Air Force, regular Army. Sometimes the jobs you do in the Army, it's harder to track them to a civilian job. But I'll give you for example, if you are in the Army, let's just say your MOS means you disarm bombs. Your goal is to disarm a bomb before it explodes. Yeah, you can do that in a civilian world, but hopefully there's not a need to disarm a whole lot of bombs in the civilian world. On the other hand, if you are, if you were fortunate enough to get an IT skill, information technology skill in the Army Reserves or regular Army, now when you get out, that transfers to the civilian world very well. I hope I'm answering your question right, not kidding off track.
I'm sitting here like he is a wealth of military information. I'm serious.
Thank you.
And that's interesting because there's a lot of our veterans that struggled with that very thing when they got out, whatever they were doing there, thinking, I guess, or hoping that, hey, I can continue this as a civilian, and it didn't work that way.
Yeah, it's so true. And part of it is some planning, but in addition, there should be people in the Army,
I think so,
counselor type people before that person gets out that says, hey, Bob, Sergeant Bob, whatever, you're thinking about getting out soon. Let's start preparing your resume now and wording this such that it can relate to a potential civilian job that you want when you get out.
Yeah, I agree.
You said that you work for the government now. What do you do for the government now?
I'm doing computer work. So basically, I went into the government as a computer programmer. But before that, I was working for the state of Illinois, 2 different state of Illinois agencies as a computer programmer. And prior to that, I was a personal lines insurance underwriter for an insurance company. It's the one that you see on TV where the people are normally sitting on the bench and there's a big old tower thing in the back. Y'all know which one I'm talking about. Those commercials are always like on streaming services.
Yes, sir.
And their name starts with L and M.
Would there have to be any seagulls involved sometimes?
Yes, sometimes there's seagulls. Yes.
I'll say it, Liberty Mutual.
Yes. What's so interesting is when I worked for them, they primarily sponsored golf tournaments. And that's how I, heard about them. A lot of golf tournaments where now it's always these commercials with the person sitting on a bench. Anyway, it's comical And they're memorable. You do remember them.
You do. You do.
Yeah.
So we have another question posted. Did you have a favorite place that you were stationed?
Ooh, yeah. So that's a great question. Yeah, I'm kind of partial toward when I'd be on active duty in Fort Carson, Colorado, because not only was my aunt in Denver and her daughter,
Mhm.
and so I could go visit, um, my aunt, but my uncle, who was his last active duty station was at Fort Carson. So there were times I could visit him on the weekends, visit him or her on the weekends, which was fun.
That's nice. And now, would your cousin happen to be one of the panelists tonight? Or
Yes, I think so. Of
yeah, because
course.
y'all kind of favor. Y'all
Thank you.
look related.
She has all the best qualities, I'm sure.
Oh, that is sweet. We renewed her contract. No.
All right.
I'm kidding. That is awesome. So the next question is, how long have you been married and how did you navigate marriage and military?
Great question. That has both positive and negative side. So when I first got in, and it was probably one of the reasons I wanted to get in, is I was married like very young, like 20. And so at that time, it was just a matter of, she knew I was going to drill. And, a lot of times my reserve unit was not in the town where I lived. So it meant driving like 2 or 3 hours to drill. Sometimes I would come home on Saturday night. Other times I would actually sleep in the reserve center over the weekend. So that was for, so many years. And then the next person I was married to was in the military themselves.
Oh, okay.
And so it was pretty easy well, I guess it was easier for there to be an understanding. It just meant we both worked real hard together, our regular job and then during military. It was at times it felt complicated, other times it felt convenient because we related to what the other person was going through.
That's cool. I like that. Okay, so when you said that part, I often think about the military, first responders, law, and especially law enforcement. For lack of a better way to term it, I always say who's ever in these positions, even the medical field and all of that, it takes a special type or certain type of person to be linked with someone in that field because the position is demanding in and of itself.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's demanding of that spouse as well
Yeah.
as the person, and the children.
Yes.
Because when I was called up, my two kids were very young. Like one was like 4 and maybe the other one was 8. So that's a really nice age for kids. From you can enjoy them more. I feel. I mean, not that you can't enjoy them when they get older, because when they get older, you can take them to different kinds of movies. You can do sports with us. So many things you can do when they're older as well. But when they're really young, you're not a 4-year-old. You're not that worried about them getting good grades. An 8-year-old, you're probably not that worried about them getting good grades. So there are just certain things that you're a lot more laxed about when they're really young. And so when they call you up and pull you away from them, you're missing some of the most interesting times of their development.
Yeah.
Plus, you're missing your spouse. Yeah, it was, and they're in pain. They're hurting too. So you got to write a lot. Back then, we didn't have cell phones. So you had to go to a tent. The Army people did. The Air Force people had, many times they had hard buildings that looked like mobile homes. And they pretty much, depending on where they were stationed in the war, they could almost make a call every day back home, where we were granted phone privileges maybe once a week.
Okay. Wow. Wow. So you
But-
definitely had to develop your penmanship.
Oh, yes. I wrote a lot, and I even wrote back to the place where I worked. They had to hold my job. That's a whole nother issue. When
Mm,
you're a reservist and you're called up from your civilian job, they have to hold that position.
mm-hmm.
And they're doing your work while you're gone. And not everyone at that job appreciates having to hold your position while you're gone. And
Yeah.
sometimes they tell you about it when you get back.
Yes. And I've heard stories like that. Like, we got to do so and so's work because they're in the reserve, or they got to go here and go there. I'm like, did you sign up to protect your country? Then quit complaining.
Yes.
Somebody got to fight. I didn't. And that's always my story when somebody start complaining. Somebody had to fight for the country. I did not volunteer for it.
That's right.
Thank you for volunteering to say, I will die for you. You know what? I think the military, people that sign up for whatever branch that they go in, is just a real small representation of when Jesus was like, I am going to die for
Ooh.
these people. And he died for the ungrateful. And
Yeah.
so the military, I see it the same way. Y'all said, because Magdalene is a veteran, Sandra's husband is a veteran, Marcella that has asked a question, she's a veteran. It's like y'all said, I will die for my country. And somebody had to be thinking, everybody's not going to appreciate what I'm doing.
Oh, yeah, it's pretty deep. I don't know if I'd associate myself with what Jesus did,
No,
but
that's why I said small, on a small scale.
yeah, but I guess if you look at, I never thought about that comparison, because it was a little bit more complicated. Why I decided to go in, mostly, I mean, and some people tell you, I didn't do it for like school benefits because I didn't think I was going to get a degree paid for, but I did. I actually did wind up getting from the state of Illinois a grant that funded my first master's degree paid in full because I was in Desert Storm, Desert Shield. That was just a perk. That was God. I didn't expect it, but I mostly went in initially because I needed the money. I needed the money. I needed the experience. Uh, and then the whole thought of, well, you might die. That kind of came along later. But of course, I stayed because at a certain point, I could have got out. But I stayed. And because, as I was told by some more mature, learned folks, that the 20 years would go by fast. And it really did. Sometimes it felt slow. But at that 10-year point, it seemed to be going by really, really fast. And you're right, these folks, not just me, but anyone who goes in, you are risking your life. And one of the benefits I get today, which I forgot to mention, is so when I go in Denny's, I go in Home Depot, Lowe's, sometimes I'll say, do you guys give military discounts? A lot of places do, but then some of them will say no, but I'm going to give you the first responders discount. And so we do get associated with them from that point of view.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's good.
Nice. Right on. Well, Marcella, who is a fellow veteran, wanted to know, when did you serve? Like your time era.
Oh, okay. So basically, it was about 1984 to about 2000, approximate 2003. Again, if I brought up this, in the reserves, they have what's called a retirement point statement sheet, and it has the exact years on it, exact points. And that question about points, a good year in the reserves, a minimum of 50 points. And some people get over 70 points in a particular year. And the more points you get over 50, the more money you get at that 20-year, when you qualify to get money after that 20 years.
Nice.
Yeah.
So then we going back to it. How you gain these points, if you're allowed to say?
So again, so I got this in front of me now. Basically, 15 points as a member of the reserve. So you just get those 1 point for each drill period, and there are 4 points earned in a drill weekend. Annual training is 1 point per day, many times 15 points for the 2 weeks, because an active duty point is 1 point per day. And then there are courses, and yeah, that's pretty much how that works.
Nice. All right. Right on. Ladies, y'all got any questions?
I want to know why the wives don't get points.
Well, some of the wives want to know also. That's a great question. Some of the wives want to know why they don't get medical coverage too when the guy retires. Because when I was on active duty, well, actually, I take that back. My wife, I was able to cover my wife.
Mm-hmm.
I am able to cover my wife and kids under the TRICARE, but yeah, they don't get paid. Say that question again. Let me make sure I got that question.
Why the wives don't get points? We should be getting a check too for endurance.
I'll tell you. I'm gonna tell you. I know y'all laughing, but I'm gonna tell you, it's a whole bunch of wives feel just like you. Yeah. That's all I can say. I don't know the answer other than you just have to serve. That's pretty much how it's stated. You have to serve. But
I'm gonna write Trump. I'm gonna write my president and ask him.
Lord, please don't.
We don't listen. One more subject matter. They do offer like some drill weekends. They invite the spouses and kids in to be celebrated. Some drill at some reserve units, they'll invite you in for a weekend and say, "Hey, we know you sacrificed. Hey, this food here today is for everybody." So I know some units do those kinds of things. Mm-hmm. So to try to show some appreciation, when you're away, like when you get called up for a war, some of those wives that are left back on the post, or husbands, because it could be both, they'll have get-togethers for the spouse to say, "Hey, we know you're lonely. Hey, we're going to get together. We're going to do this or that," because they're trying to keep you motivated during this time away from your spouse.
That's nice.
I want to just get off camera just for a second, but okay. I'm here. Let me just.
Okay. And Selena, you had a question or a statement?
Oh yeah. You were talking about how some of the times were hard, and I just what was your outlet during those times? Like, what did you do?
Well, because I'm a music person, basically what happened, during the reserve time when it was hard, there's in the reserves, they have chaplains. Mm-hmm. Not every reserve unit has a chaplain, but if you're at a larger unit, what they call battalion or higher, they're usually assigned a chaplain. And so for me as a religious person, when the chaplain said, "We're going to have church," and they call it something else, but when the chaplain said they're going to have church on Sunday, that means I went to that church for 30 minutes or an hour. Mm-hmm. So that was a good break. The other way, for your reservists, how do you get some relief? I like junk. So when we had donuts, I was eating my donuts. People brought snacks, so that was an outlet. You take a break, you go talk to somebody who's a comedian, can make you laugh. You talk to somebody who can tell good war stories. Those are kind of fun ways as a reservist to take a break. But on active duty, when I was in the war zone, how I got a break was I sang pretty much every day by myself. I'd run out into the desert and just sing. I brought a cassette player with performance tracks, accompaniment tracks with me. During one part, when we were out there, they gave us like a day where they invited in folks to entertain us, and they put on a talent show. Wow. And I got a chance to perform on a talent show. I did vocal warm-ups. I found other people in the reserves in my unit who sang, and I would do vocal warm-ups with this particular person who was a singer. And then also we wound up getting like one day off every 2 weeks or something. And so we would go into Dhahran, which is an area in Saudi Arabia, or other areas where there were actual grocery stores. And we would go and again get snacks usually, or actually get a real hamburger or fries somewhere.
A burger.
Yeah, so that was some of the things we did to, just kind of relax. Also, some people had weights or like, what is it? Not the one sport I can play. Not tennis, but volleyball.
Okay. Oh, I love volleyball.
People would put up volleyballs in the desert, volleyball courts in the desert.
Nice. Sir, you said sing. You think we could get a line or two or, 3 or 4? You should have known that was coming.
Well, now I wish my wife was in here because she loves to ask that question too. Hey, what you gonna sing for me now?
See, so we're representing your wife this evening.
Yeah, I'll have to tell her y'all said that.
And I think your cousin just called you out. She said the saxophone too.
Well, I don't know if I ever played the sax, but I do play some piano and some guitar right now. I did actually, since my cousin called me out, what she may not know, and her mom may never have told her this. I actually borrowed your mom's clarinet one summer when I was at Granny's house and took clarinet lessons, but I did not get very good after that one summer. That was a tough. I did play French horn in high school, and I played baby tuba. I called the baby tuba in high school, but never got anywhere where I am like with guitar. Let me see. Just give me a second.
We sure will.
I'm going to see what we got here, because if we're going to... And I'm not singing very much. Do you want to hear gospel, or do you want to hear...
We want to hear what you want to
or do you want to hear R&B type music?
Whichever one you feel, as long as it ain't raunchy.
Oh, no, it won't be that. Not today.
All in. He said not today.
Well, my wife likes, what's the guy's name? Man, I can see his face. His name, anyway, he had a hit, and he's got some hits that keep, like, that are playing now. Anyway, what was the guy's name? I can see his face. Anyway.
Is it Charlie Wilson?
No, I know some Charlie Wilson too. This is a younger guy. Some people say he's like a young Prince.
Oh, Bruno Mars?
Not Bruno Mars. Another guy before Bruno Mars.
That brown guy, what's his name?
Really nice hair.
Oh, no, that's not him.
Really nice hair. And he hasn't put out a lot of new music recently.
I don't know.
Anyway, I'll find that too. Okay. I'll get their name. Let's see what we got here. Ooh, that's probably good. I tell you what, since that's on my mind, if I were a drummer, I would use my cymbal. If I were a writer, I would use a pencil. Anybody know what that is?
Yes.
Who is that?
Moss.
Yes, J Moss. A little bit of J Moss. Or we could do, If I can just make it up there, if I can walk through that city bright and fair, there'd probably
Come
be
on.
1,000 things I want to tell the Lord on that day. Oh, on that day. That day. Anybody know what that is?
Yes, the Winans.
Yes, that's millions. Anyway, that's enough of that. or we could do some Luther. I was outside in the cold, so I'm having a little challenge with this. Pretty little darling, have a heart. Anybody know it?
Yes, I
One,
remember that
one
song.
mistake keep us apart. I was not meant to live alone. Turn this house into a home. When I climb the stairs and turn the key, oh, please be there, saying that you're still in love with me. Oh, with me. Hey, whoa. Anyway, that's a little Luther.
Yay! Thank you for all those renditions.
Yeah, yeah.
Marcella said, "Do you know any John Legend?"
No. If the guy was John Legend.
Yes, yeah,
If the song was John
I know
Legend.
some John Legend. Let me just see what we got here. Words for John Legend.
Okay.
Yeah, and some days the memory is better than others. But yes, I definitely have some John Legend. Name some John Legend songs, and that'll help refresh the memory because I'm a little nervous.
Oh no, Sandra was saying she was asking. I thought she had meant for you to sing John Legend, but she was saying you were saying the guy before Bruno Mars was it
Oh
John?
no. This guy again, he's kind of like a younger Prince. Uh, let's see.
I don't know.
Anyway, I'm gonna get it.
Is it
Give me
Miguel?
1 second. I'm gonna give you his name because I know even Google's gonna associate this guy with Prince. 1 second.
Who did you say, Magdalene?
Is it Miguel?
There you go, Miguel. Who said that?
Magdalene.
Yes, Miguel. They called him. He's been known as like a young Prince, and he had one mega hit, and then he had another hit that became a mega hit because of TikTok. And you can still hear it on the radio. Let me just see which song that is. Which song made Miguel? Let's see. This song made. Of course, I know a little Michael Jackson, but I won't try to do any of that right now. Miguel, tick tock. Famous. Do you have any other questions as I'm looking through here? Sure thing.
It's a short thing? Okay.
Yeah, that made him TikTok famous because, TikTok sped it up. And because before that, people said the other version wasn't quite as nice. But I mean, if he sang it, it probably was still pretty good. But he had another song before that. Let me see.
Adorn?
That's it, Adorn. That is one of my wife's favorite songs, and I have sang that song for her birthday.
Anniversary.
But it's a tough song, and your voice hat should be warmed up if you're a guy before you try to sing it.
He's pretty like so. We will not be doing that today.
Yep.
Nice. Well, panelists, do y'all have any other questions?
No, but I think it's just interesting to see how talented and gifted, first of all, that you are, and how you use even those things, like when you were in the military, at war, at different spaces, how those talents kept your mind, stable and be able to, because some people don't know. This is probably the wrong word, but this is the best word I can use. Some people don't know how to soothe themselves when they're going through things in life. But it's
Mhm.
nice to see how you took the things that you knew and then apply it in your life to bring comfort and to even help you in those, in those tough times. Even though people don't understand, even in war, you still kept your mind, you still kept your heart on God. Like you went to the chaplain, it didn't really matter what the chaplain was saying, but you knew that was a place where God was. And then how you all play volleyball in the
Yeah.
desert. And I said, but that's good, because usually when you go on by the beach and you play volleyball, it's the same thing. So I like how all the comedians and all these different things to entertain. So I like that, that there is ways for the military and people in difficult situation, and even while they go through the wars, even now, that I pray that they have that same mindset to go through it and realize that some of the resources that they need is within themselves and also with the people around them. Yeah. Thank you for that.
Yeah, thank you for saying that. And I do think it is a form of soothing. I mean, we all have a certain level of. Some of us have habits. It might be playing with our ear, our nose, and those are kind of, I believe, self-soothing habits. Many times you see it in little kids, probably more than adults. But yeah, I tell people all the time, music really, uh, music for sure. I would say it saved my life. It kept me. Uh, the preach call came. I feel like it came later, but I believe the first call was to the music, and really, music was intended to glorify God. And but people have taken it to the world, and I guess ideally, like, and I hear Beyonce, for example. A lot of times, I wish Beyonce was always or using her gift more for gospel music, and many other artists, I feel that way about them. Uh, and then you have somebody like Stevie Wonder. His music may not be directly religious music, but it's definitely many times very positive music. So, but yeah, that music, even today, it's just such a powerful thing. Now, the Word of God can soothe as well. It's just that I got connected to the music first, and then I found if I meditate on the Word, it has the ability to soothe. But for personally, I really have to meditate, and it has to be speaking to me at that time what I need. But yeah, I definitely had to find some ways because it was tough. Someday I watched a guy who was a Vietnam veteran. So he had prior war experience, and literally it was like he was losing it some days. He wanted to go home so bad from being in that war. And I thought, I would just try to encourage him. That's all I could do. Uh, but I was just surprised that he took it so hard, and he was a prior war veteran. I think
Wow.
he missed his family really bad.
Wow.
That's interesting. So I have a question. I know our time is winding up. You said something. You said that your first call was music. So then I know, when did you decide to be a pastor? How did that, I mean, how did that come into play in your life?
It's been a journey. It was a journey. So um, when I grew up, I was raised by my mom and my grandma. My grandma lived in one town. My mom lived in another town, but only about a 10-minute drive apart. And grandma said, go to Sunday school. If you want to stay for church, stay for church, but you will go to Sunday school when you're over here. And so I don't know if I was 9, 8, 7, 10. But at some point, I'm walking to Sunday school. I started liking Sunday school. I liked in the Baptist church, we were given the opportunity. And also, I want you to know in heaven, there'll be no denominations. But in the Baptist church, we were given the opportunity to review the Sunday school lesson. And my uncle, he would tease me about, oh, you're going to church, you're the church boy. And at a certain point, he was like, you're going to be a preacher. Other people in church are saying you're going to be a preacher. And I really didn't want no part of this preacher stuff because I had already seen growing up in the Chicago area young preachers. And I didn't always like how they were during the week, these teenage preachers. So, but at a certain point, I felt like I was sensing the voice of God saying, you are going to be a preacher. You know, and I'm wanting to ignore it. So I'm pretty much ignoring it years and years and years, and I'm just spending time ignoring it. There are times when I start hearing something similar. I feel like I'm sensing it from other people. But years went by when I'm just trying to ignore this call. So one of the times that really stood out is I went to Christian Broadcast Network, Pat Robinson. Everybody familiar with him?
Yep.
So I actually got a chance to go to Virginia to see Pat Robinson and be in a service there with him and a bunch of other folks that were associated with the CBN. And so at one point, some woman who didn't know me from anybody, we had to hold hands and pray together. And she touched my hand and she basically said, you know that you're supposed to be a preacher. So she didn't know any of this other stuff that's went on through the years, but that's what she said. And she sensed something. Like I said, didn't know me, you know, I didn't know her. We didn't know none. I only knew the people I was there with. It was a very powerful time of fellowship there. Not that I always agreed with some of the stuff that ministry said afterward politically, but definitely was a very spiritual time. So that was one instance. Another instance was when I went to see one of your panel's moms in Denver. I went to a church and I was trying to hide in the balcony of this church because I was just a visitor and I didn't want anybody to notice me, but that was probably the worst place to be in the balcony because I was up there pretty much by myself. And it was one of these annual training weekends I was there. And I knew I had been sensing God dealing with me about trying to move forward with this call. And this particular service in Colorado was very spirit-filled. There were two people. I don't think they even sang. I think they played piano and maybe it was a saxophone player. All I know is they could play. And I could sense the Spirit of God in the service. And I just cried. I started crying almost the whole time I was up there. And I had no idea why I was crying. And I pretty much couldn't stop. But after the service, that pastor of the church, was a female pastor, she came up there and she says, you know you're running from the call. You know God has called you and you're running from it. And at that point, your panel's mom told me when I get back to the hotel to make sure I go pray in the spirit and talk to God about it, which I did. And the rest is history. Of course, I did my seminary at ILIF on the Denver University campus. And anyway, there's a lot more I could tell about how I sensed the calling. But there were always these little bitty things through the years. But it's tough because, you know, I felt like the call cost me my mother. I can't blame it on the call of my mom dying. I can't say the call because my mom had died, but it sure was, you know, creates some shakiness for you. I also felt like the call hindered my first marriage. I mean, I felt like we were under attack spiritually because of the call. You know, even today, I feel like the call it can be challenging. We were at one point, my wife and I, current wife, we used to do witnessing outreach. We would go knock on doors on a Saturday. And why is it every Saturday after we got to doing that, we would get into an argument?
Oh, wow. Yep.
So the call can cost.
Yes.
The call be calling a lot.
Yes. It can really try to shake you.
Mm-hmm.
You know, well, Paul went through some stuff. Paul in the Bible, he said he was beat. You know, he was all kind of stuff happened to Paul. Look at Jonah. He tried to run and he wound up in a whale.
We'll see.
You know,
Jonah brought that on himself. You know, the old folks have said Jonah did that to himself, baby.
Well, I don't know, but I understand. Jonah just didn't want to do it because the people didn't want to listen. And preachers deal with that today. They're just trying to help members, and sometimes the members don't want to hear it.
Yeah, but we still got to get up and do it.
I like that.
There's blood dripping off your hands, so you still got to get up and do it. Be like, listen, blood. I'm going to just deal with it because can't have my hands dripping with blood.
Nope.
Yeah, that's a good way to look at it. We, as preachers, we just have to do what God told us to do. Yep. I like the way Charles Stanley used to say it, and he's dead now. He says, obey God and leave the results of your obedience up to God.
God.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Kathleen used to say, it's just our job to obey.
Okay. I receive that.
Yeah. Wow. This has been a pleasure. Did y'all have any other questions for him?
Nope.
No.
It's has been a joy to get to know you better. Thank you for giving up your time to us. Thank you for your service.
Yes.
Thanks for your support. And thank you, Cuz, for inviting me.
Well, y'all know how this ends. We absolutely love you, and there's nothing you can do about it.
I receive that. That's Brian Courtney Wilson.
There we go.